Hi, my name is Cookie. I am the current maintainer of the Optimization Lock v2 project. I have been reached out to by a dev from the Deadlock team for my efforts, and have spent a good few hundred hours developing this performance config. I would like to consider myself one of the leading community experts in regards to optimizing Deadlock, and this video serves to act as an all-purpose guide to try and communicate what steps can be taken to improve the performance of the game. If you would like to donate or support myself in this project, I have a Ko-fi for receiving donations available here, and I might start streaming Deadlock in the near future. I don't know though. Like and subscribe if you want to, I guess. The first thing I'm going to cover is installing a performance config. I of course am biased and would recommend my own available here, but any of them should do. To install performance config, the first thing you will need to do is download the config itself. This can be done by navigating to the download page of the config you wish to use. I'm going to use my own as an example, so that would mean either GameBanana or GitHub. So the first thing you'll need to do is navigate to the download section of the mod in question. So for GameBanana, that's this button, and for GitHub, you come here and then click this button that says download raw file. If you download from GameBanana, this will be in a zip file, which you'll need to extract yourself, but it's so long as you have the file gameinfo.gi, that's all you're after. So if you take this file, you need to come over to Steam, and if you'll right click Deadlock here, hover over Manage and click Browse Local Files. If you come over to your file manager, it'll open a new window under which it's Steam Apps Common Deadlock, and from there you want to go into the folder Game, and then from there the subfolder Citadel, and in here you'll notice there's a file called gameinfo.gi. From here you want to take the file you downloaded from Downloads and put it in the one in Citadel. So click Move here, and then overwrite the file in Citadel. From there, that means you've installed the performance config properly, and now you need to test if it's activated. To do so, you just launch the game normally. And the first thing you'll notice, and this implies that it's working correctly, is on the, well, firstly your FOV will be zoomed out, but more importantly the buildings will be popping in and out here. This is because of, functionally similar to Minecraft's render distance, the config lowers the distance at which map geometry is rendered to save on performance. So if you see that, it means the config has been loaded properly. If you start the game and all textures look weird like this, then you need to go into Settings, click Video, and then lower your shadow settings to medium or low. Either way will make everything look normal. Additionally, if you find the in-game FOV to be a bit too high, you need to exit the game, go back to Citadel, and find the file gameinfo.gi. You need to open it with the text editor of your choice. For this example, I'm going to use VS Codium. And then press Ctrl F to search. Type in FOV, and you'll find the subsection Field of View. And everything in the config is annotated, so if you want an explanation for what every command does and its default value, you just need to search for it. So here, there are two commands, Citadel Camera Hero FOV and R Aspect Ratio. Citadel Camera Hero FOV has weird issues with heavy meleeing, but changes in actual FOV degrees, while R Aspect Ratio, while it doesn't have those issues with heavy meleeing, it is unintuitive to change. If you want to set it to the default, you simply put a comment in front of it, which is 2 slashes. That means it won't be recognized by the code. The same method applies to the health bars. This config uses the new health bars, which are a single line. However, if you want the old health bars, which are a series of pips, you simply need to close the game, and find health bars, which is under HUD here. So if that's Citadel unit status use new, if you want the old health bars, set this to false or comment it out. So commenting like so. Another thing people often complain about is center slites being little triangles until you get close. To do so, or to fix this behavior, once again you need to close the game, go into config and find SE screen size LOD override. This is a unique command in that it can be changed in-game through the developer console. Most commands cannot. So if I set this to 1, then you'll notice the center slites are perfect. They look normal at faraway distances. However, this isn't recommended, since this command increases this command increases the detail of player models as well as the center sacrifice. So I'd recommend finding a value that suits you through the developer console and then setting it through the gameinfo.gi file, as otherwise it won't be saved. If you've watched a video by Piggy on optimizing Deadlock, you might have heard of Roblox mode and want to enable that yourself. To do so, you need to come over back to Deadlock Game Citadel, and from there find the subfolder CFG. In there, locate video.txt, then open this in your text editor of choice and find nip bias. Then you can set this to any number. The higher the number, the worse the quality will be. I believe it maxes out at 8, so I'm going to set it to 8 and launch the game. As you can see, the game is like, all the textures are flat. This has a low impact on performance unless you're on a very old system, so I wouldn't recommend it for most uses. As an aside, when using Roblox mode, I love how vibrant it looks. Outside of the performance config, for some in-game settings you should consider changing. Go over to settings, go to video. You usually want this to be stretch and set it at 100% or lower if you want like a lower resolution, as FSR 3 TAA inputs some lag on the GPU, or rather load. Additionally, for me, Vulkan works better than DX11, however, I encourage you to test it because it's dependent on your graphics card. You also usually want AMD Anti-Lag 2 disabled, as it puts a pretty substantive load on your CPU. Finally, unintuitively, you do want your FPS display to set to never. This updates via panorama and as such introduces some slight overhead onto your computer, so just disable this. Use an external one, like for me, I'm on Linux, so I'm using Mango Hub, but on Windows, most people use either MSI Afterburner or the Steam overlay built-in one. There are 2 mods that seek to improve performance of the game. One of them is Vindicta Scope Downscaled by Tamara Mokashina. This mod reduces the texture quality of Vindicta's scope. In the base game, the scope is 4096 by 4096 pixels and isn't affected by bitmaps, so it'll cause a hang in frame time anytime you scope in as Vindicta on a low VRAM GPU, and in the context of a sniper character, that's bad. So just this works. This is cool. I love Tamara, so shout out to her. There's also Optimized Soul Container by Jay. This reduces the polygon count of the soul container model. This shouldn't be needed, and you're probably using a mod that makes it like a floppa or something, but this is an option, and it is nice. So shout out to JE too. One thing I do want to touch on is that in the past, QOL lock has negatively impacted 1% lows as well as just general frame times. However, from speaking to ByteNode and Sivo, this should be reduced in the current version, or at least will be reduced in the near future. The main features they stated that negatively impact frames are the rejuve timers and unspent souls count. Other than that, it should be clear. While I'm making this video, I want to quickly touch on some things that I would believe are incorrect or unreliable sources for Deadlock's performance updates. That being, the first of which being the Deadlock tweaks config GitHub repository. This repository doesn't really work. It recommends using -preload and an autoexec.cfg, which an autoexec.cfg does not allow you to change the vast majority of commands relating to performance, and that's why we use a gameinfo.gi. It also recommends launch options that don't exist, and is overall like just, I believe it's AI generated according to an issue. So I don't think this is like a reliable source, and I would be hesitant to like recommend it. I want to also touch on these. None of these launch options do anything. Panorama min comp layer cache cost turned off has never done anything, and like this doesn't exist in the game's code according to the dev I'm in contact with, so I don't know where this comes from. Force preload doesn't exist. There's something similar to it, that being it's dash pre-warm map, but that's enabled by default. Dash high I don't think does anything. Dash no assert doesn't do anything. No shadows doesn't do anything, and dash preload is the same. Dash preload doesn't do anything, and as such you're looking for a pre-warm map. No. Then there's Dyson's config. Dyson's config in the past had some like 20 AI generated like convars, and as such I wouldn't really recommend it just because I don't like trust it. Also, if my memory serves correctly, he's developing cheats, but I don't know if that's for certain. I haven't checked on unknown cheats yet. I wouldn't really recommend anything by Decoder because he doesn't fully seem to know what he's doing. His performance config has variables that make the game run worse, and he was banned from Game Banana temporarily for re-uploading my config and removing accreditation to me. So yeah. Okay, so before I finish the video, I want to properly thank everyone who has contributed, even if indirectly or directly. And firstly, I want to thank the people who donate to me. That means like the world to me, like genuinely. The idea of someone donating to me for my work on this like makes me feel so honored, and I really want to thank them for that. So huge thank yous to Solex, Boot, Sunny, Zeno, and NateFan, and everyone else who is either involved or I'm really glad I got to meet because of the config. I want to thank anyway. So that would be Six Daves, Abu, Achira, Anartoast, Artmon, Boot, Bruli, Sivo, Cupid, Cyvoid, Dean, Dirt Killer, Egyptian Scale, Emmet, M, G Golden, Heathen, Jaden, Jasper, JB, Kaizu Chenro, Kiki, Kin, Krisha, Kunet, Lena, Maidenless, Mastercoms, NateFan, Peach Sibo, Biggie, Renox, Sasaki, Sasha 11711, Sunny, Solex, Tamara Mokashina, Thai, The Last Friendly, V, Zeno, and ZH Todd 223. Thank you so much for your time, and have a wonderful day.